That déjà vu you had? The strange dreams, the sudden emotional intensity, the number that keeps following you around. None of it is random. You're not imagining it. You're not overthinking it. You're waking up to something real. Most people ignore the signs. They brush them off as coincidence, as tricks of the mind. But when the universe starts moving things into place, it doesn't send you a calendar invite. It sends you signals, small at first, then undeniable. You start feeling things before they happen. You sense something coming, but you can't quite name it. And deep down, there's a quiet knowing. Someone is getting closer. Not just anyone, someone who mirrors the truth of who you really are. This isn't fantasy. It's alignment. And once it begins, your life starts whispering louder and louder until you can't ignore it anymore. You've probably felt it. That sense that something is shifting, even if you can't explain why. Your mind tells you to stay logical, grounded, cautious. But your body, your energy, your emotions, they know something's different. Things around you don't feel as random as they used to. Conversations feel loaded with meaning. You see a word, a number, a symbol, and it follows you for days. A song you haven't heard in years plays 3 times in a week. You dream of someone you've never met, yet somehow they feel familiar. None of this is accidental. These aren't just nice moments to smile at and forget. They're markers, they're alignment cues, and the more you notice them, the stronger they get. The truth is, when your soulmate begins moving toward you, your entire inner world starts tuning itself like a frequency. It's subtle, but it's powerful. The way you think, feel, and perceive begins to adjust. You might feel more sensitive or more grounded. You might start questioning the people around you, wondering why some relationships suddenly feel like dead weight. You might even wake up one day and realize you've outgrown half of your circle. That's not you being difficult. It's your energy adjusting to match what's coming. And what's coming is someone who will meet you where you've never been met before. But they can't meet you where you used to be. That's why everything old starts breaking down right before something new shows up. And yes, it's disorienting. Yes, it can be lonely. But this is the sacred space before the connection. It's not the absence of love, it's the clearing of space to receive it. The universe doesn't operate on your calendar. It doesn't care how long it's been, how many heartbreaks you've endured, or what your dating history looks like. It only cares about alignment. And alignment happens when your energy, your mind, and your emotions stop chasing and start opening. If you've found yourself more introspective lately, more drawn to stillness or creativity or even isolation, that's not regression, it's calibration. You're not falling behind, you're syncing up. Soulmate connections don't come through force or fantasy. They arrive when you're energetically available. And when that process begins, the world starts responding to you differently. You'll notice people treating you with more reverence or sudden moments of deep connection with complete strangers. You might walk into a room and feel like something is about to happen, and maybe it doesn't yet. But that feeling? That's your field expanding. That's your reality stretching to make space for someone whose soul has been orbiting yours for longer than you know. Some signs, though, go deeper than what we can say here. There are truths we can't openly share on this platform, which is why we created Insights Academy, our free newsletter where we go into the hidden layers we can't speak about here. Sign up using the link below and you'll get a free copy of the Kybalion for a limited time only. What makes this whole process even more magical is how unforced it all becomes. You stop needing signs to prove something and start noticing them as confirmations of what you already feel. You stop trying to chase meaning and start receiving it. You're not trying to predict love. You're preparing for it without even knowing it. That's when the most unexpected things start happening. People reappear. Opportunities align. You overhear conversations that hit like messages meant only for you. And the more you relax into this flow, the louder the universe speaks. Because when you stop pushing, everything begins pulling itself toward you. There's a moment in this journey where everything starts to feel like it's crumbling. The friendships that once felt solid begin to feel forced. The people you used to chase, the habits you once found comfort in, the distractions that numbed you, they all start to lose their grip. And at first, it feels like a loss, like something's being taken away. But what's actually happening is space is being made, not just physically or emotionally, but energetically. The version of you that attracted chaos, codependency, half-hearted love, and surface-level connection is being dismantled. Because that version of you can't hold the kind of love that's on its way. It's easy to misread this phase. When you feel low, distant, or even empty, you might think something's wrong. But you're not breaking. You're being refined. The noise is clearing. What used to fill your days no longer satisfies you because your soul is no longer interested in the shallow. You may suddenly stop texting people back, not because you're cold or closed off, but because there's nothing left to say that resonates. You may find your usual routines feel stale, your goals feel irrelevant, your plans feel heavy. It's not depression, it's detachment from the old timeline. You're slipping out of one version of your life and beginning to sense the blueprint of a new one. And that shift is uncomfortable because it's quiet. There's no big explosion. There's just a slow unraveling of everything that no longer fits. This is what people mean when they say, the calm before the storm. But in this case, it's the calm before alignment. And that calm can feel isolating, because while your soul is upgrading, your outer life might still look the same. The disconnect between your internal growth and your external reality can create a kind of emotional friction. You start craving something deeper without knowing what it is. You feel ready for more, but nothing around you reflects that readiness yet. This is the test. It's not about waiting, it's about holding the vibration of what's coming, even when nothing in your current life confirms it. Your soulmate's energy is already in motion, but they're not going to walk in when your life is cluttered with connections that drain you or identities that don't reflect you. That's why it feels like things are falling apart, because they are, and they need to. There's no space for a new frequency in an environment built on the old one, so the universe begins its quiet demolition, not as punishment, but as preparation. The heartbreak, the silence, the letting go, these are not signs that you failed. They're signs that you've been chosen, that you're being readied for something that doesn't just touch your heart, but transforms your life. And transformation requires release. It requires trust. And more than anything, it requires faith in the invisible, that the things being taken away are not a loss, but a clearing, that the void is not empty, it's sacred. It's the womb of what's to come. The soulmate connection you feel approaching isn't being delayed, it's being prepared for. And so are you. The discomfort you feel now is the friction of becoming. It's the universe softening your grip on what you've outgrown so that you can receive something that finally fits. You might not realize it at first, but something in you has shifted. It's not loud. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks, but it's there. In the way you breathe, the way you notice things, the way you no longer tolerate what drains you. You're not just reacting to the world anymore, you're responding from somewhere deeper. There's a quiet power in you now, and it's growing. You don't need to prove your worth, chase someone's attention, or perform a version of yourself that fits someone else's expectations. The noise that once consumed your mind has started to fade, and in its place is space. Space to feel, to think, to just be. That's not burnout. That's growth. This is what people don't talk about when they speak of alignment. It's not always spiritual highs and magical synchronicities. Sometimes it's just this still undeniable sense that you're not who you used to be. The old version of you, the one who clung to unworthy love, who doubted their value, who settled because they were afraid of being alone, is dissolving. And you didn't force this change. You didn't decide one morning to completely transform. It happened naturally, almost without effort, because your frequency evolved. When your soul realizes that it wants something more, something true, something real, it starts releasing anything that doesn't match it. That release rewires everything. People might say you've changed. They'll mean it as a criticism. But really, it's confirmation. Of course you've changed. You were never meant to stay in survival mode, operating from fear, trauma, or scarcity. You've stopped being available for anything less than honesty, depth, and mutuality. You've stopped shrinking yourself to keep others comfortable. You've stopped playing games that lead nowhere. And even if you can't yet explain what's coming, you can feel it. The clarity you're cultivating isn't just preparing you to meet your soulmate. It's preparing you to recognize them. Because let's be honest, you've crossed paths with potential before. You've had deep connections that came close, but they couldn't land, couldn't last, because your energy was still entangled with patterns that weren't yours. Now you're untangling, and that creates space for something to finally stick. You might notice this shift showing up in small but powerful ways. You take longer to respond because you're no longer reacting from wounded urgency. You start enjoying your own company in a way that feels fulfilling, not lonely. You listen more to your intuition and less to your anxiety. You don't chase validation the way you used to because your self-worth is no longer up for debate. That's the sign. That's when the universe starts aligning the next chapter. Not when you're desperate, not when you're hunting, but when you finally feel at peace with who you are, regardless of who's next to you. This isn't spiritual fluff. This is an energetic reality. Everything in this world runs on frequency, and you're no exception. When you become coherent, when your thoughts, emotions, and actions are in alignment, you emit a signal. That signal isn't about attracting a perfect person. It's about drawing in someone who matches your truth, someone who doesn't just complement your life, but reflects the parts of you that matter most. That's why this inner shift is so important. You're not preparing to impress someone. You're preparing to meet someone from your most authentic self. And when they show up, it won't feel like magic or fantasy. It'll feel natural, familiar, as if something that's been circling you for years has finally arrived. Because it won't be new, it'll be remembered. You'll recognize it not with your eyes, but with your whole being. But you can only recognize that kind of connection once you've made peace with your own energy. And right now, that's exactly what you're doing, whether you realize it or not. Long before your soulmate appears in front of you, your subconscious has already picked up their signal. That's how deep this connection runs. It's not something you figure out logically. It starts in the background, in the quiet moments of sleep, in dreams you can't explain but can't forget either. Maybe you've seen their face before, even though you've never met them. Maybe you've felt their presence in a dream, heard their voice, or woken up with a sense of calm or longing you couldn't trace. You might brush it off, but it lingers, and that's the first clue. Your soul knows before your mind does. These dreams are rarely clear. They don't deliver names, dates, or perfect visions. They offer fragments, feelings, symbols, settings. You might find yourself revisiting the same place again and again in your sleep. Or maybe there's a stranger who keeps showing up, faceless but familiar. Sometimes it's not a person at all, but a feeling, an overwhelming sense of being seen, held, recognized. This isn't fantasy. It's an energetic preparation. The subconscious, untethered by ego and expectation, opens portals to what's coming. It begins the connection in the only place where the conscious mind can't interfere. It's not just about dreams either. You might find yourself noticing patterns you've never paid attention to before. Numbers like 1111 or 22 follow you around. Certain songs seem to play right when you're deep in thought about love or longing. You'll overhear phrases in conversations that feel like they were meant for you. A line in a film suddenly hits like a message. These are micro-signals, synchronicities, and they're not there to impress you. They're there to prepare you. It's not about creating obsession or false hope. It's about tuning you in to the invisible rhythm of connection that's already begun. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious, the shared psychic space we all tap into, where symbols and archetypes speak louder than language. And in that space, the soulmate connection begins to stir, not because you're manifesting them through wishful thinking, but but because there's an energetic readiness that's calling them in. You're starting to broadcast a new signal, and that signal is starting to return echoes. These synchronicities act like breadcrumbs, and if you're awake enough to notice them, they'll guide you, not with certainty, but with clarity. You might also notice subtle physical cues, a sudden wave of emotion with no obvious trigger, feeling like someone is thinking about you, even when no one is around. A sense of anticipation that rises out of nowhere, like your heart is preparing for an arrival your mind hasn't caught up to yet. That's not anxiety. It's alignment. The veil between your conscious life and your soul's path is thinning. And when that happens, you don't need to chase signs. You start living them. These cues don't come to distract you from your present. They come to remind you of your path. And the more you trust what you feel, the more clearly you'll begin to sense the difference between fantasy and truth. You won't need validation or outside confirmation. You'll feel it in your nervous system. You'll feel it in the way you carry yourself, in the way you hold space for possibility. Because deep down, your soul already knows who's on the way. And when your soul knows, it starts sending signals in every direction, through your dreams, through symbols, through unexplainable calm. That's the beauty of it. It always starts within. There's a moment in this journey when you stop looking, not because you've given up, not because you no longer believe in love, but because something inside you finally lets go of the chase. It's not apathy, it's alignment. You're not closing your heart, you're clearing the noise. You're no longer searching for love from a place of emptiness. You're not scrolling, swiping, scripting your way into someone else's life. You're just here, in yourself, with a sense of peace that used to feel impossible. This is one of the strongest signs that something is shifting, when you stop being consumed by the idea of finding them. You no longer need to prove that you're worthy of love. You've already decided that you are. You stop measuring your value against your relationship status. The neediness melts. The desperation fades. You realize that every version of love you used to chase was built on fear. Fear of being alone, of being invisible, of not being enough. But now, without really meaning to, you've made space. Space that isn't desperate to be filled, but open to be met. People talk a lot about detachment as if it's cold or disconnected. But this kind of detachment is sacred. It's not about giving up. It's about coming home to yourself. You stop wanting a relationship to fix things that were never love's job to fix. You stop looking at others to complete you. You've already started completing yourself. And from that place, love becomes something radically different. It's not a lifeline. It's an invitation. It's not a distraction. It's a mirror. And because of that, you're no longer willing to water down your needs or abandon your boundaries just to be chosen. You start seeing clearly. You look at past situations and wonder how you ever romanticized them. You remember how you used to settle and stay silent just to maintain something that didn't even feed you. You're not bitter. You're aware. You know now that presence isn't proof of connection. That chemistry isn't the same as alignment. That attraction without emotional maturity is just a beautiful waste of time. These realizations don't harden you. They soften you toward yourself. And in that softness, something incredible happens. You become magnetic without effort. You stop trying to be lovable and simply start being love. That shift is energetic. It's real. People feel it. The universe responds to it. The less you chase, the more things begin to find you. You're not doing this for attention, though. You're not playing games or crafting an image. You've just finally stopped abandoning yourself. You've chosen peace over performance. And that choice sends out a signal far louder than words. It's in this state, calm, grounded, quietly powerful, that the real signs begin to amplify. You might get unexpected messages, serendipitous meetings, or random reminders of what love is supposed to feel like. But the biggest sign, you're no longer anxiously waiting for someone to come and fill a gap, because the gap no longer defines you. You're whole. You're ready. Not because you've been searching, but because you've stopped searching and started becoming. And in that becoming, something beautiful starts to happen. the soulmate you've been sensing? They're not just approaching, they're responding, not to your words, not to your vision board, but to your frequency. And the deeper you drop into trust, the more clearly you'll hear the quiet truth whisper back. They're already on their way. At first, it seems like a coincidence, a conversation that feels too aligned, a stranger who says something that echoes your exact thoughts, a film, a book, a lyric that mirrors what you've been processing internally. You brush it off, maybe even laugh about it. But then it keeps happening, over and over again. These aren't just strange moments of synchronicity, they're reflections. You're starting to see your internal world mirrored back to you through the people, places, and experiences around you. And when that begins, it's one of the clearest signs that your soulmate is moving into range. It's like the universe starts speaking in riddles designed just for you. Everywhere you turn, something clicks into place. You meet someone new and feel like you've known them before, not in a romantic way, but in a way that jolts your awareness. Their story mirrors a lesson you've just learned. Their energy feels eerily familiar. They're not the one, but they're showing you something, preparing you, reminding you. These people are not detours or distractions. They're reflections helping you refine your truth. Sometimes the reflections aren't soft, they're sharp. You'll come across people who trigger you, who activate the wounds you thought you had healed. It's frustrating, even painful, but necessary. These mirrors aren't meant to punish you. They're here to test the new version of you. Will you fall back into old patterns? Will you shrink, chase, or perform? Or will you honor the self you've been becoming? The more you choose the latter, the more clearly the reflections shift. Instead of being shown what you still need to let go of, you start seeing glimpses of what's on its way. You may notice that even your surroundings begin to reflect your evolution. The books you're drawn to, the music that moves you, the themes that keep popping up in your life, they all carry similar messages. You're no longer trying to decode everything, but you can't ignore how aligned it all feels. This is more than confirmation bias. This is resonance. Your outer world is responding to the internal frequency you've been cultivating. And the people who show up now don't feel random. They arrive with timing, with purpose, with a strange sense of recognition. They show you pieces of the connection you've been preparing for. There's something beautiful and humbling about this stage, because it teaches you that alignment doesn't always look like fireworks. Sometimes it looks like subtlety, like stillness, like a familiar sentence from a stranger's mouth. You realize that the universe rarely shouts. It reflects. And when it begins reflecting your growth, your healing, your peace, it's letting you know you're almost there. And still, it's not about attaching to every reflection and assuming it means something permanent. It's about staying open, observant, and grateful. Each moment is a message. Each encounter is a piece of a larger puzzle. Your job isn't to figure it all out. Your job is to stay present, stay grounded, and stay honest with yourself. Because in the mirror of these reflections, you start to notice something else. You're not just seeing glimpses of your soulmate, you're seeing a clearer image of you. Who you are now, who you've become, what you've healed, what you're ready to give and receive. These reflections are as much about you as they are about them. And when you can recognize yourself in the mirror of life, that's when you'll be able to recognize your soulmate when they finally step through. There comes a moment, often when you least expect it, where you begin to feel them. Not in a dramatic movie scene kind of way, not with angelic choirs or cosmic beams of light, but subtly, softly, deep in your nervous system. It's a shift in your energy that you can't quite name, a calm that settles into your body for no apparent reason. It's like the air changes. You're going about your day, drinking coffee, walking to work, doing something completely ordinary, and suddenly there's this strange sense that something is different. You can't explain it, but you feel them. This isn't fantasy or delusion. It's an energetic reality. Long before two people meet physically, their energies often begin to interact on subtler levels. You might feel a sudden pull towards something unfamiliar, a location, a piece of music. a memory you didn't know you had. You might feel a presence with you in meditation or in your dreams that doesn't scare you, doesn't even surprise you. It just feels natural, like they've been there all along. You might feel drawn to write letters to no one, to speak words out loud when you're alone, not knowing exactly who you're speaking to, but knowing it's heard. This is what we call drop-in energy. It's when someone's presence starts arriving before they do. You're not obsessed, and you're not imagining things. You're just tuned in. And because of that, you start to sense their energy brushing against yours, gently, like the first breeze before a storm. It doesn't feel urgent. It doesn't demand attention. It just is. A background hum beneath your daily noise. A low-frequency connection that grows stronger the more you settle into yourself. You might start noticing things you didn't before. A random object reminds you of something they'd like, even though you don't know who they is yet. You walk into a room and feel like someone has just left or is just about to arrive. Your heart calms, but your awareness sharpens. You become more present, more intuitive, more in tune with the subtleties of your environment. That's not you becoming hyper-spiritual or overly romantic. That's your body responding to resonance. And resonance doesn't need logic to validate it, it just needs space to be felt. You won't talk about this much. Not because you're afraid, but because you know it's sacred. You understand now that not every knowing needs to be shared. Some truths are too tender to be explained, and so you protect it. You nurture the feeling without needing to prove it. That's the difference between fantasy and intuition. Fantasy wants validation, intuition wants peace. And through this peace, the connection continues to grow, quietly, invisibly, faithfully. You may not know when, you may not know how, but you know. You know because it's no longer about hope or longing or needing to fill a void. It's about readiness. It's about alignment. And the deeper your trust in that feeling becomes, the more effortless everything starts to feel. You stop wondering if they're out there. You start living like they are. The biggest misconception about soulmates is that they're something you have to find, that if you search hard enough, swipe long enough, or heal perfectly enough, you'll eventually stumble across the one. But that's not how it works. Soulmates aren't hunted down like lost treasure. They're remembered, recognized, felt. When they arrive, it won't be because you finally became worthy. It will be because you finally remembered who you are. You'll realize that the idea of someone completing you was always a trap. You were never missing pieces. You were just disconnected from parts of yourself that needed your attention first. The soulmate journey isn't about someone coming to fix the broken bits. It's about someone arriving when you've already started doing that for yourself. It's not about being rescued from loneliness. It's about being met in your fullness. And when they do show up, it won't look like the stories you were fed. It won't always be instant fireworks or dramatic declarations. In fact, sometimes it'll feel like a slow remembering, like coming home to a place you didn't realize you'd left. Their energy won't feel foreign, it'll feel familiar. Not because you've been taught to want them, but because their presence echoes something ancient in you, something real. There might be tension. Not all soulmates arrive in neat little packages. Sometimes they enter your life and press every button you've got, not to harm you, but to stretch you, to show you the areas where you still play small, hide parts of yourself, or close off. They won't let you settle into your old patterns, because they didn't come to help you maintain who you used to be. They came to meet the version of you that's been emerging, quietly, patiently, powerfully. That's what makes the connection sacred. It's not just romantic, it's evolutionary. A soulmate doesn't just make you feel good, they make you grow. They challenge your comfort zones and reflect your depth, and sometimes that means navigating discomfort together, not as a test of loyalty, but as a gateway to intimacy that most people never reach. You'll start to understand that love isn't about constant ease. It's about radical truth, about being fully seen and still chosen, about standing in your wholeness and letting someone else do the same. When you see love through this lens, you stop longing for the fantasy. You stop chasing the movie script. You realize that real love doesn't play by society's rules. It's not timeline-based, doesn't arrive on demand. And it doesn't owe you the story you imagined. What it offers instead is far more powerful: presence, depth, transformation, and the kind of soul recognition that feels like it's been lifetimes in the making. You'll also notice that the relationship isn't the prize. The awareness is. The alignment, the becoming. Because by the time they arrive, you've already made peace with your solitude. You've already learned how to hold space for yourself. And that's the version of you they're drawn to. Not the version who was desperate for love, but the one who became love. So no, you don't find a soulmate by looking harder. You meet them by becoming the version of yourself who is no longer hiding. And when that version of you becomes your everyday self, calm, open, grounded, that's when the universe begins to deliver the reflection you've been waiting for. Not because you begged for it, but because you remembered it. And that memory lives in your bones, your breath, your presence. It lives in the way you show up with honesty, with softness, with strength, because that's who you've always been, and that's who they're coming to meet. There's a peace that settles in when you finally realize you don't have to chase what's already moving toward you. That kind of clarity doesn't come from spiritual quotes or manifesting rituals. It comes from living it, from reaching the point where the search exhausts itself, and what's left is stillness. Not the stillness of waiting, but the stillness of knowing. The kind that says, I've done my part. Now I let it come. This is the shift that changes everything. You stop obsessing over signs and start recognizing them without attachment. You stop wondering if every person is the one, and begin sensing when someone is simply a stepping stone. You don't shrink to be chosen. You don't perform to be seen. You embody your truth, and in doing so you draw in those who can actually hold it. Love becomes less about arrival and more about alignment. It's not something outside of you, sitting on a future timeline. It's something that starts within and ripples outward. You realize that the soulmate you've been preparing for isn't going to save you. They're not coming to fill your silence or fix your wounds. They're coming because your energy now says, I'm ready to meet someone who's doing the same work. And when that energy is real, the universe takes it seriously. This doesn't mean you give up on love. It means you redefine it. You stop chasing timelines and start honoring timing. You release the pressure to make something happen and instead choose to create space for it to arrive. That's when the most unexpected things begin to unfold. You reconnect with someone you almost forgot. You cross paths with a stranger who feels like home. You feel a pull toward a place or decision that makes no sense, but everything about it feels right. This is the choreography of connection at play, and it's happening whether you see it or not. By now, you know the signs aren't just fluff. They're the threads between dimensions, the soft whispers of a universe that wants you to see how connected everything really is. And once you've experienced this alignment, even just once, it's hard to go back. You can't unfeel it. You can't pretend your soul doesn't know. And because of that, you no longer settle for distractions dressed as connection. You no longer fall for empty intensity or surface-level validation. You've developed a kind of sacred discernment, and that discernment acts like a lighthouse, drawing in exactly what you're ready for. If you've felt any of this, if this has stirred something in you that you can't quite explain, then you're already in the process. You're already tuning in. You're already on the path. And if you're not signed up to Insights Academy, now is the time. Because the deeper codes, the things we can't share publicly, the kind of knowledge that accelerates this alignment, we only share them there. You'll also get the Kybalion for free, a guide into the ancient Hermetic principles that echo through every synchronicity you've ever felt. There's nothing left to chase, nothing to prove, just an unfolding that's already in motion. And the more you lean into who you truly are, the faster everything else aligns around you. Because when you're no longer pretending, the universe stops pretending too. It responds. It shows you the people, the places, and the opportunities that match your frequency. That's the real magic. Not control, but coherence. Not force, but flow. You're not waiting anymore. You're remembering. And through that remembering, you're receiving. You're becoming the version of yourself that your soulmate has always been looking for. And as you continue on this path, signs or no signs, timelines or none, you can move forward with the calmest knowing. They're coming, and so are you. The meeting place has already been chosen. All that's left is the journey to it. If this video resonated with you, let us know by commenting, "I understood it."